What's up, everybody? We're going live for the first time. Should be pretty cool. Should be pretty interesting. You can see I'm in Mordor. See that? Check that out. That's right. Mount Doom. I think actually being in Mordor might be more enjoyable than perhaps watching this show. But I digress. I want to talk to you about I'm alone. I'm alone. Kind of like Sauron. I'm alone. Matt was too interested in his social life to be here with us. I told you I would review this show, and I did. I watched one episode. 3 episodes came out today. I only watched the first one. Just got home from work. It's kind of late. Just got home from work. I look like a salesman nowadays, but that's what I'm doing. So I took some time today to watch the first episode of this show. And I don't know how I feel about this show anymore. I really don't. Like, it's hard to get mad at it because it's just not good. And it's not Lord of the Rings, and it's immediate. Take Lord of the Rings out of it for a second, right? Because the initial reason I watched this show is because I love this franchise so much. I'm a really big Lord of the Rings fan. It's one of my favorite things. And then, like I said, I'm by no means an expert on the lore of Lord of the Rings, but I really enjoy this world that Tolkien was able to create for us. I love that whole fantasy realm. I remember reading fantasy books when I was a kid, where like you would like choose your own fate kind of thing. One of those books, and a lot of the ones that I really enjoyed had to do with Knights of the Round Table and that era. I love medieval times. I love all this fantasy stuff. This is my favorite genre by far. But this show, like after the first season of it just being not really it didn't feel like Lord of the Rings. It felt like a show. It felt like a sci-fi show. It had sci-fi elements, right? All these sci-fi shows these days have elves or dwarves, and swords and bow and arrows and all that stuff. But Lord of the Rings has a special feel to it, especially when you watch the Jackson trilogy. And this just didn't have it, right? So take that out of it. Take it out that it's a Lord of the Rings franchised show. If you're just watching this as a show and you don't have any ties to it as far as Lord of the Rings goes, it's still not a great show. There's lots of things that, in my opinion, they just don't make sense, or they're just uninteresting, right? A lot of the characters are not very interesting to you don't even want to really get to know them very much. But Matt and I spoke about the first season and kind of where it left off, right? So I'm going to pull up the show here on the right-hand side, and I can't play it for you because I'll get copyright struck, but I'm going to go through it like, I'll hit the little 10-second skip ahead thing. I'm not going to be able to see if anybody comments or anything like that because I'm going to be on a different tab, but I'll come back and forth and check up to see if there's anybody that has been commenting on anything. It starts off with a recap of the first season. So we got Galadriel, we get her meeting Halbrand. They have the big war at the end. There's our Gandalf, not Gandalf, our dime store Gandalf, doing his thing. Here are our Harfoots, just in case if you don't know these people. These are the Hobbit-like people. I'm not sure if they're direct descendants of hobbits. They're not in the books, right? So I'm not sure what Amazon has in store for these people or what their backstory is. I'm assuming they're some type of, previous relative or ancestor of the modern Hobbit that we know in Tolkien. This right here, that's a poppy seed. I think her name's Nori. We'll call her Nori Seed, but her friend's name is Poppy Seed or Poppy. That's Gandalf, not Gandalf. The deal with him is he doesn't know what he is, and he doesn't know why he's there, and he doesn't really. He's still learning about himself. He came like flying out of the sky. Now in the books, there are a number of wizards that are called the Maiar, and those wizards are sent to kind of help the elves keep order in Middle Earth. So, and again, I'm not an expert on all the lore. I just know like the big important chunks. I don't know if they were sent to Middle Earth in this form where they're almost like infants. They're a very special being, wizard. Like a wizard is very, very special, high up there in the rankings. I don't know if they're sent to Middle Earth like this on purpose, or if they're sent like this at all. They might be sent to Middle Earth fully knowing what their job is to do. I'm not sure. But in this show, this dude, who we don't know, we don't have a name for him. I think he's just a stranger or something like that. He's still learning like how to control himself and how to control his powers. So he's kind of on this journey with Poppy Seed and Pumpernickel. Here is a leaf of Eregion that has like a black veins going through it, and it's to show that the light of the Eldar, which is the elves, is kind of dying, and they need the Mithril to kind of make that stop, kind of thing. There's Sauron and all his armies. That's kind of like a flashback. This is Celebrimbor and Galadriel. This is the smith that just got introduced to Aloys. Okay, he's the great smith that helped make the rings. There is Halbrand, who we later find out to be Sauron. There is Elrond, okay, looking as much as Doogie Howser as he can possibly look. Here are the 3 rings of the elves. So there are lots of rings. Now in the books, things are done in a different order than what this show is done in. And so in the books, Sauron kind of infiltrates the elves and shows them how to make rings of power. They make 16 different rings to be given to the men and the dwarves in Middle Earth. At some point, the elves find out that the guy helping them make the rings is Sauron. He doesn't name himself Sauron at the time. Once they find out that he's Sauron, they decide to make these rings in secret. And these rings are supposed to help kind of protect the elves and protect their lands and their part of Middle Earth. Sauron has no idea these rings exist in the books until later. And once he does know that these rings are made, he then goes to try to find them. In this story, it's completely different. In this story, Halbrand teaches Celebrimbor how to make these rings. Now, he teaches them how to make rings in the books, but not these rings. These rings are forged in secret, okay, so that he doesn't know about them. So in the book, Sauron can't control these rings as well as he can control the other ones, because he made the other ones. He made all 16 of the other rings that are going to go to the dwarves and to the men. He didn't make these rings. So he can't control these as easily. He can still control them because they're still made in the same ways that he made the rings, but he can't control them as easily, which is good for the elves. But in this story, I don't know how they're gonna do it. Okay, but these are the rings. Okay, so now we start the show, and I gotta say this was almost unwatchable because of how dark this show is shot. I can't understand why almost every scene is so dark and unable to be viewed. I'm going to skip over a lot of the Gandalf scenes because they're literally I don't know who's on the screen when he's there. I don't know who he's speaking with. I don't know what the landscape is like because he's in scenes that are so dark. It's unbelievable. So we're introduced to Sauron in the dawn of the Second Age. So this is the very beginning of the show. Here's your establishing shot of the dawn of the Second Age. So the big bad guy, his name was Morgoth. He was the original bad guy. So I mentioned him in our previous episode. Morgoth has just been defeated, and Sauron was his second in command. And now Sauron is trying to take up that banner of the big bad because Morgoth is dead, right? So he's in this cave. Let's see if I can get a good picture of him. Here he is. So this is Sauron. And it's a different actor from the guy who played Halbrand in the first season, which is kind of cool. I like that they did that because Sauron is a shapeshifter. He can take the form of anything. So I like that, he took a different form way back when, and it was this guy. I don't like how he kind of portrays himself, but that's a different story. So Sauron here is trying to convince the orcs to follow him and for him to be the next leader. And to be honest, the orcs aren't buying it. The orcs are kind of, not so sure that he's the right person to be the leader of this whole shit show. So things kind of go bad on him. And I don't know why they go bad on him. He's Sauron. He should be demanding respect. I don't know why elves are giving him lip. And if they do give him lip, he should quickly backhand that. He speaks to them in a way that is very, I don't know. It's not that of a leader. It's not that of of someone who can motivate, right? He should be trying to rally these orcs by telling them, there's man flesh and we can defeat these armies and I'm going to be the one to do it. And he's not really like that. He's more or less like, it's going to be a hard fight and orcs will die but we'll get through it and I'll lead you to the right way. And it's like, the orcs are like, we're going to die. Like, well, why are you telling us this? Right. So what happens to him is he gets deceived by Adar. Now, I had this guy in the back here is Adar right here. And I had mentioned in the previous season recap that Adar was not coming back. And Adar, the character, is coming back, but the guy who played Adar is not coming back. And again, this is happening way prior to the events of season one. This whole scene is giving you the background on why or where Halbrand came from and where Sauron came from. So Adar is supposed to kind of crown Sauron the new big bad king or the big bad lord of the dark. And he takes this crown, which looks very similar to the crown Sauron to wear with the big spikes on the top. And instead of crowning him, he stabs him and catches him off guard. So let's see if we can get to that. Here's the crown with the big spikes on it, and he goes to crown him, but instead of crowning him, he stabs him with the points. This starts a big fight, right? All the orcs kind of start fighting. Sauron, at the beginning, Sauron really holds his own, and not for nothing. Sauron is like a god. He is one of the most powerful beings that lives in Middle-earth. So the fact that he can only stave off like 5 or 6 orcs at a time makes no sense to me. I don't know why he's not using his magic. I don't know why he's not using the abilities that he has. He's an extremely powerful being. There's no way he should be, beat up and taken over by a couple of orcs like he's in prison, right? Like he just got taken over by 10 or 20 orcs. And now they're all stabbing him. Now every orc in this place, which is probably hundreds, are taking turns stabbing him. And he's just laying on the ground, bleeding out, getting stabbed. Okay, that's what's happening at this point. Now, eventually, what happens to him is he kind of like, he's laying there dead, and he lets out like, I don't want to call it a burp because it's not a burp, but he like lets out this energy force from his mouth. Let's see if they show it. It's in between here and the next 10 seconds. Let's see if I can get on it here somewhere. See, I might have to just play it and see. They're gonna get me. I don't want them to get me, so I got to keep pausing. Right here. Okay. So at this point, he like flips out and all this energy gets thrown out of him and it terraforms that first scene that we saw with this castle here. Where is it? Remember this? Okay. After he lets out his big burp, it turns into a tundra. He literally terraforms this place into a tundra covered in ice and snow. Now, how come he didn't use that power when he was getting shanked by 25 orcs? What was he doing? Why was he trying to fight them hand-to-hand combat when he could have just sneezed and caused this to happen? I don't get it. I don't understand. It makes no sense to me. Okay, so this is why, as a regular show, this doesn't work for me, right? Because like I said, I'm trying to take myself out of the fact that this is a Lord of the Rings product and just try to watch it, and it's just not making sense for me. Okay, so that happens, right? It turns into a tundra, ice everywhere, and then it goes back into the cave where he did this, and everyone's fine. Like everyone just got knocked back a little bit, and like maybe like none of these orcs are dead, I don't think, because Halbrand, which is the guy who was laying on the floor here, this is Halbrand, not Halbrand, Adar. He just gets up. He just gets up like nothing happened. Like the closer you get to an explosion, the more force there is at the explosion, like at the epicenter, like where the bomb goes off is the most force. And as it goes out, it gets less and less forceful. So everyone who was in the vicinity of Sauron when he decided to do that should be mincemeat at this point. I don't know. But hey, this is the world. It's the world we're in right now. Okay. So now he's gone, right? Sauron's gone. His like body turns into this black goo. Oh yeah, they're all fine. See, they're all good. They're fine. Nothing happened to them. Their armor's still on them. Like like you get hit by a truck, your shoes fly off. Like these guys got hit by something way more than a truck, and they're all fine. Their armor's on, their helmets. Like this, look at this guy's helmet. Like it doesn't even have a chin strap, and his helmet is still on. So I don't know. Help me make sense of it. So they're all like, oh my God, where did Sauron go? His body basically drips into the ground, and underground happens to be like this little like pond. And he essentially turns into venom. He turns into this black goop that is able to like strangle mice. So this little mouse comes, or this big, not a little mouse, but this rat comes over to take a drink of the water, and this venom type symbiote looking thing grabs the rat and kind of, I don't know if it eats it. I don't know what it does, but it seems to be growing, because later on in this scene, it catches like a centipede, and then it eventually gets out. They give you no timeline on how long this is taking place, right? So I don't know if this transition of the ooze from like a black blood to this glob that's grabbing things to the thing that we're going to see in a minute. Not sure if that takes 5 minutes or 100 years. Not sure at all. I'm assuming it takes a very long time, because we know from the first show that Galadriel has been hunting Sauron for like 1,000 years or something like that, because Sauron killed her brother in the war that just ended in this scene, right? This scene is following the war. So from here to like 1,000 years, I'm assuming this is all happening, right? So, but they don't tell you, and they don't give you any sense that it took a long time, because it's not like there's lots of change that happens in the scenery or in anything. It is what it is. So the goop, this is the goop, all these little, black lines, all these little squiggly lines here. These are Sauron in whatever form he's taking, and he's now able to move out of the cave, and he gets out of the cave, and he starts crawling around on the ice, and that's him right here. This is Sauron, this black goop thing. And it just so happens in the middle of nowhere, on the base of this mountain, in the snow, there happens to be a horse and carriage coming through. Who are these people? Where are they coming from? Where are they going to? What are they carrying? Don't know. Don't care. Whatever. It is what it is. And they happen to run over Sauron, right? Sauron's kind of just laying in the middle of the road as a black goop, and she runs him over. She thinks it's just a bump in the road, so to speak. And then he eats the lady, right? He eats the lady. The lady was drinking on the front of this thing, and then all of a sudden the horse runs away, and who do we have? We have this mysterious figure, Halbrand. Okay, so he decided to morph into Halbrand's body. I don't know why he chose this body, but he did. He eats the lady. And why is it that he ate the rats and the centipedes in that cave? And I'm assuming the woman had more energy, I guess. I don't know. There was enough power in the woman or energy in the woman to make him be able to take a physical form again. I don't know. They don't tell you, but it's really not that, to be honest, it's not that big of a deal. He took the woman's life form and he made himself into Halbrand. Okay. He starts walking. He runs into a couple of people here. He meets a guy. The guy tells him some stuff like, there are orcs. Don't walk that way where you're walking because there's orcs there. You want to come with us? We're going to escape the orcs and we're going to head on this boat and we're going to go to a place far in the sea where it's nice and safe. And he goes, oh yeah, that sounds like a good idea. This little old man tells him to come with them and to, he'll be safer with them. So he says, yeah, that, what, maybe, and you don't know, maybe he wants to not be Sauron. Maybe he doesn't want to be evil. Maybe he's rethinking his life. Who knows? But he decides, I'll go with you. And he gets on a boat with these people. And let's see. Does it go on to here? Okay, look at the darkness. Look at how dark this is. I'm assuming he's on the boat here. That looks like a boat. Okay, can't really tell. You got to watch this in the complete darkness. I was watching this in the afternoon, couldn't see a damn thing. Okay, you might have to just watch this in complete darkness. On the boat, here he is again. Now he's in like the hull of the boat talking to the old man. All of a sudden, something starts attacking the boat. He has this big worm-looking thing that attacks the boat. There it is. It's like this big alligator, whale-looking thing. And it sees Sauron and it decides not to eat him for whatever reason. This little sigil here, this is a throwback to the first season. He wears that in the first season, and this is what makes Galadriel think that he's the king of the Southlands. After he told her multiple times, I'm not the king of the Southlands. But again, this is the world. So he takes the sigil. This was on the old man. The old man was carrying the sigil. So he takes the sigil and wears it. And now he's stranded on a boat. And this is where he meets Galadriel in the water. So now this makes it even worse than it normally was, right? So in the first season, Galadriel, by chance, meets Sauron in the middle of an ocean. She's on a boat. She doesn't want to go to the Undying Lands. She's thousands of miles away from the nearest land. She jumps off the boat and swims hundreds of miles in the ocean. And she stumbles upon a raft that happens to have Sauron on it. Now, in the first season, you're kind of thinking like maybe Sauron knew where she was going to be and he's tracking her and he wants to find her. So he put himself there so that she can find him. Nope. Complete accident on both of their parts. He happened to be shipwrecked in this one spot in the ocean. She happened to be swimming at that one spot in the ocean. And that's how they meet. There was no intentional thing there, which drives me nuts because it's even worse than the original thought of he was cunning enough to put this whole thing together. Okay, so that's where we are with that. Then we drop the title, Rings of Power, and then we cut to the elves. Okay, now at first we have Elrond here. Riding his horse and Galadriel riding her horse. And she loves riding horses, right, ladies? And they're riding away and she's like, give him back, Elrond, give him back, like they're children. And what he what he has that she wants is the 3 rings of power that were made by Sauron. And they find themselves with the High King of the Elves. Where is he? There he is. Okay. His name escapes me right now, but I will get it. But he's the High King of the Elves. He makes all the decisions. And he wants to know who this mysterious man was that made these rings. And she doesn't want to tell him for some reason. Don't know why, but he has to ask her like 5 or 6 times, tell me who this man is, tell me who this man is, tell me who the man is. She finally says, it's Sauron. His name is Sauron. He's no man. Sauron. Right? So like that, because that's the only emotion she has, right? So he gets real pissed. And he's like, how could you let this happen? You're so stupid. And Elrond has the rings, and Elrond doesn't want to give the rings up. Elrond wants to destroy the rings. And the king's like, no, give me the rings. We got to use the rings to save the world. And Elrond's like, but Sauron made them. Maybe they're not good. Maybe they're tainted. Maybe he put in some trick. Maybe it's a trick. You know, we don't want to get tricked again, right? That's how the song goes, right? Won't get fooled again. So he's like, man, I think I'm going to destroy the rings. And the king's like, no, man, you're going to give us those rings. And it's kind of like, it almost feels like what they're trying to do is they're trying to show you how the rings can take control over you, like the One Ring did to Isildur, and how the One Ring did that to Frodo and to Bilbo and to Gollum. However, these rings don't do that. Okay? That's not what these rings are meant to do. But that's what they're showing you. They're trying to show you that this High King wants those rings and is going to take those rings no matter what. He threatens Elrond. He's like, I'm going to arrest you. And I don't find that from the elves. Like, I don't think the elves should be infighting like this. Right? The elves are wise. The elves are smart. They've been around a really long time. They're extremely wise in all this stuff. Why are they fighting with each other about this? I just don't see that happening with this race of people. Right? So Elrond's like, nah, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to give you these rings. And they're like, well, we're going to arrest you. And then Elrond runs away. Right? So he's like, yeah, give me the rings. Give me the rings. And Elrond's like, I'm giving you the rings. No, you're not getting them. And he's like, no, give me the rings. And Elrond's like, no. And she's like, give him the rings, man. Like, dude, just give him the rings. And he's like, I'm not giving you the rings. He's like, I'm going to ask you one more time. One more time. That's all I'm going to ask. And he goes, no, sorry, I can't do it. And he clutches him. And he goes, I can't. And he jumps off the side of this cliff. All right. And down he goes. And you think he dies. Right. Then back to Mordor. This was the volcano that was made at the end of the first season when the old man used the key to open up the dam to flood the water into the mountain, which caused the volcano, because waters cause volcanoes, right? Halbrand is captured by the orcs. Forget how that happened. Somewhere that happened. I guess when he was shipwrecked. I don't know. I don't know. Oh no, this is present day now. Yeah, this is present day. So after season 1, the last episode of season 1, he gets captured by the orcs, by Adar. Okay, now he's a prisoner of Adar. He goes into Adar. Adar is making everybody bow to them, and anybody that doesn't bow to them has to gets killed. And anybody who does bow to them, this guy was lucky. He bowed down to Adar and professed his allegiance, and he gets a brand on the back of his neck. That's always nice. Pretty cool, though. I actually don't hate this part. And then Halbrand comes up, and they want him to bow down. And he's like, listen, I got some news for you. Okay, because remember, Adar, the leader of the orcs here, he's the one who killed Sauron, right? Remember that. At the beginning of this episode, Adar was the one who killed Sauron by stabbing him with his own crown. So now Sauron's back, but he's in a different form, so Adar doesn't recognize him. So he tells Adar, listen, Sauron's back, bud. And Adar's like, no, he's not. He ain't back. How do you know he's back? He's like, I know him. He's back. I heard things. He's back. And he's like, well, yeah, how will prove it? And he goes, well, do me a favor. Let my people go. He's trying to act all, diplomatic here. He says, let my people go and I'll tell you all about Sauron and what I know about him. So they throw him into jail. Okay. And then, oh, by the way, this dude, this old man here, he was the one who stuck the sword in the keyhole and started the volcano. Okay. So they throw him in jail. They're gonna try to torture him and get information out of him. Okay, these two are like, "Do you really think Sauron's back?" And he's like, "Nah, I killed Sauron. He ain't back. There's no way he can be back." And little do they know, here is the Gandalf stuff. See how dark this is? This is probably the most light that you get in most of the Gandalf, not Gandalf scenes. And I'm just going to skip over them because I don't know what happened in them. Look how dark this is. And it's all the way up. It's all the way up. Can't see nothing, right? He's having dreams. That's all I know. He's having dreams about his staff. Now, I know what you're thinking. Get those dirty thoughts out of your head. He's thinking about his like, wizard staff, right? Where he casts spells with and stuff, right? And I'm assuming because you're going to find out, and even in season 1, he's having trouble like controlling his magic. I kind of think once he gets the staff, he'll be able to control his magic, but he needs that staff first. So he's having dreams about the staff. Okay. He's walking along with Nori, and they're hungry. They find a tree. This dude's following them. I have no idea who this dude is, or dudette, probably a girl. I don't know. It's a cool mask, though. I don't know if it fits into Lord of the Rings. It kind of feels like that movie that J.J. Abrams did for Netflix. Can't remember the name of it. Not Dune. It's another movie. Forget the name of it. It's gonna bother me. Hopefully, one of you guys can tell me what it is. Leave it in the comments if you know what movie I'm talking about. But it kind of looks like that. But this guy's following him. We don't know who this person is yet. They don't release that in the first episode. Okay, so they come across a tree. She asks Gandalf to make the tree. He can like manipulate like foliage, I guess. He tried to do this in the first season and things kind of went bad, but she's like, yeah, try it again. You never know. Maybe we get some food. We're kind of hungry. So he does his thing and he can't control it. And the tree explodes because of what he does. And all these bugs come out of the tree and they end up eating all the bugs. They're all the bugs. You can see all the bugs in there crawling out. They're like giant cockroaches and they eat the bugs. They must have been talking to Bill Gates and all those other celebrities that are trying to convince us to eat bugs and not eat meat because they're eating bugs. I'm going to take a sip of this little bourbon right here. Uncle Nearest bourbon. Very, very, very good. Me right here in the South. Okay, so they're eating bugs. Back to nighttime where you can't see anything. Eating more bugs, talking stuff. Gonna skip over it because it really means nothing. She's telling him about his dreams, and she's like, I could figure out your dreams for you, Gandalf. Blah, 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 blah. She's not British. She's Irish or Scottish or something like that. I just can't do that accent. So I'm just gonna do British for her. Okay, back to Halbrand. They keep trying to interrogate him, and he's like, you're gonna let my people go? I'm not telling you crap. The old man threatens him. They beat him up a little bit. He woos this dog. There's a dog in this cave. And that really doesn't mean anything. He uses the dog to help get out. But let's see, where else? Where are we now? Okay, back to the elves. Okay, there's Elrond. He's a fugitive at this point. He's running from the law. Okay, he's hiding under a bridge. He goes to find this guy who is a shipwright. Now, I cannot for the life of me remember this dude's name, but he is an extremely important elf. Okay, there are 3 people that wear those rings. The king, the high king that we saw from the previous scene, the one that wants the rings from Elrond, Galadriel, and this dude. Okay, all three of those people get an elvish ring of power. So that's how important these people are. The reason he is really important is because he's like one of the oldest and wisest of all the elves. So Elrond goes to him to tell him about the rings. He's like, listen, I got this dude. Okay, this guy's really important. For the life of me, can't remember his elvish name. But he goes to him and says, listen, got these rings. I don't think it's a good idea. Kind of think Sauron kind of tainted them. I think it's a trick. And I think we should destroy them. He goes, okay, give me the rings. I'll help you destroy them. Okay, long story short. Okay, so he decides he's going to go along with Elrond. Back to High King. Elendil? Nope, he's in the Númenórean. Back to the High King. He wants to send a letter over to Celebrimbor, who is the smith, to tell him that Sauron is Halbrand. The guy who helped him make the rings is actually the bad guy. Get this letter to him quick so he knows, and sends him off because they live in different parts of the elven country. right? This is Linden, this area where the High King lives, and Eregion is where Celebrimbor lives. Okay, I'm usually pretty good with names. I can't get this king's name though, but that's okay. Okay, these two start to get along now. Okay, I don't know why. He called her an idiot for the whole season 1. He tried to send her off into the west, so that he didn't have to deal with her anymore. And now all of a sudden, she's real smart and knows what to do. Whatever. Okay, it is what it is. Okay, so now they're on each other's side. This dude says he's going to destroy the rings for Elrond. They find Elrond, right? Because they're on the lookout for him. And it's so dumb. They have such a bad piece of dialogue here. Elrond goes to the shipwright and says, I searched you out because you're the wisest and the oldest of the elves. And I really appreciate your wisdom. And these two are sitting at the table saying, I wonder where Elrond went. And Galadriel says, he's probably looking for the wisest and oldest person you can find. Like the exact line that he said when he met the guy. It's horrible. Such horrible writing. But she goes to him and says, listen, give us the rings before they arrest you, please. Like, I'm trying to be civil here. And he's like, well, can't do anything about it because they're about to be destroyed by my boy, the shipwright. And the shipwright, his plan was to throw them basically into the deepest part of the oceans, like Megatron in Transformers. They were going to just throw him into the deepest part of the ocean and never have to see him again. Right? Wrong. So here he is on his boat. He's going to go throw these. Círdan. We got his name. There you go. His name is Círdan. He's going to go into the middle of the ocean and throw these rings into the deepest, darkest depths of the ocean so that no one can find them. Okay. Back to Gandalf, not Gandalf. They're back in the woods. Nori's friend Poppy shows up out of nowhere. There she is. There's Poppy. Don't know where she came from. Don't know where she's been, but she's here again. And she's got a map. Thank God she's got a map because they didn't know where they were going. But now they got a map and they're going to follow her map. That is really all there is to say about her and them. Okay. Here, what do we got here? Still them. Okay. Still Poppy Seed and Pumpernickel. Okay. Here's the guy on his boat going to destroy the rings. He looks at the rings, takes them out of the bag there, and then it cuts away. Right. So we don't know if he destroys them or not. Okay. Back to Halbrand. He's about to break out of the prison here, but he's trying to convince Adar to go to war against Sauron, which is fine. I have nothing wrong with this. He's baiting him. He's manipulating him, right? And that's what Sauron does. I like this part because Sauron actually is a master manipulator. He's a shape shifter so that he can go in and infiltrate things and manipulate people to think a certain way. He's really cunning like that. So I like this part. This part's really cool. Well, not really cool. It's just accurate and it's done okay. He's basically manipulating Adar to go to war against Sauron. I'm assuming so that he can kick his ass and take his army. That's assuming what's going to happen. Okay, but he says, listen, I let your people go. Tell me about Sauron. And he tells them, yeah, he's back. I know he's back. I spoke to people and I've seen him and he's back. And he feeds the old man to the dog that I was mentioning before, but he eventually gets out of here. He pledges allegiance. He's now bowing down to the feet of Adar, saying that he will serve him as long as he lets him go, and he lets him go. And that's the end of him. That's the end of Halbrand. Here we have, I guess, kind of like, I don't want to say it's like a court, but remember the, that's good stuff. It's like 130 proof. It's so good. Uncle Nearest. Got to get it. So back in Linden with the High King there and Galadriel and all the other elves, the High King basically, the reason he wants the ring so bad is because he thinks that it'll bring life back to the tree of life that is in the Elven lands. Remember at the beginning we saw that leaf that had like black veins in it? That was happening because of Sauron's presence. They made the rings to combat that. So he wants the rings because he thinks the rings are going to save the realm. At this point, they think the rings are gone and they're saying goodbye to the realm. See this tree here? This tree has black stuff all over it. It looks basically like the Sauron venom stuff, right? They thought, or the High King thought, that the rings were going to turn this backwards and make it go back to normal. But now all their hope is lost because the rings are gone. So they're getting ready to leave Middle Earth and go to the west and live in Valinor, right? Where all the elves go to basically die, so to speak, or live out their lives in the west. Down here is Elrond with these two guards. So I'm assuming he's still under arrest. Okay. Well, all of a sudden, guess who shows up? Oh, Gil-galad. There's your High King's name. Thank you, Gil-galad. Okay, guess who shows up at the council is our old man in the sea. Okay, where is he? He's in here somewhere. See if I can play a little bit. No, skip. There he is. There's our old man in the sea. Ends up, he didn't destroy the rings. He actually bring them back, and he's wearing one. Remember I told you he's one of the guys who gets one. So it's him, Gil-galad, and Galadriel. They all get one, okay, at first. And then they distribute them later on to different people. But he gets one. He says, we're going to save the realm. And he gives the other rings to Gil-galad. Gil-galad puts one on. And one of the rings falls at the feet of Galadriel. She takes one and puts it on. And guess what happens? All the bad stuff in the tree goes away. The light comes back to Eregion, and all is well. And Elrond feels like a jerk because he wanted to end the rings. And they're all like, see, Elrond, it all worked out. And, we appreciate you trying to save us and thinking, these rings were tainted. But look how great this was. Now, this could be I don't know how they're going to do this here because this isn't how the book went, right? The book, these rings were forged in secrecy to combat Sauron, where here they're made by Sauron, and it almost looks like they're taking over the minds of the elves. So I don't know how this is going to go. Okay. I don't necessarily hate the change, but I don't see the need for the change, but I don't know where it's going to go. I have no idea if it's a big trick, if this is what this might be what Sauron intended to happen, them to wear the rings, their realm get kind of remade so that maybe they drop their guard and it makes Sauron more powerful. I don't know. Like I said, these rings in the books are not controlled as easily as the other rings for the men and the other rings for the dwarves, because those rings were made by Sauron and these were not in the books. Here, these were made by Sauron. So maybe he can really control them. When they're wearing them, he can only control them when they're being worn. So maybe he can really control them now, and maybe he's going to control them going forward. Okay, so that's good. The tree, all the black stuff on the tree goes away. The leaves come back. Elrond feels like a jerk. Galadriel's like, yeah, I told you so. He's like, yeah, I'm sorry. She's like, yeah, you get out of here, you jerk. And look at her face. That's the only face she knows how to make in this freaking show. It's the only face she knows how to make in this show. So you got the three ring bearers, the three elven ring bearers. You got Gil-galad on the left in the gold. You have Galadriel on the green on the right, and on the top you have Círdan. Okay, the shipwright. Círdan, spoiler alert, gives his ring to Gandalf eventually. Right. So in the books, this red ruby ring right here, that is given to Gandalf. That's the ring of Arnor, the ring of fire. That's how he can battle the Balrog in Khazad-dûm. And the ring on Gil-galad is actually given to Elrond before they go into battle against Sauron. And Gil-galad dies, so Elrond keeps that ring, and Galadriel always keeps her ring. Right, so this one goes to Elrond eventually. This one goes to Gandalf eventually, and she keeps hers. Okay, that's them. Then we go to the forge where Celebrimbor is, the old man. Celebrimbor here on the left. His forge is getting up and running. He's curious to see if the rings of power that he forged those 3 rings that he forged are going to help. And who comes to, and this is an Eregion, by the way, who comes to dinner? This guy shows up. Halbrand shows up in Eregion, and he stares down Celebrimbor, and that's where the episode ends. So that's the first episode of Lord of the Rings of Power. Like I said, it's hard for me to hate it. I'm just gonna be angry and hate it just to be angry and hate it. I don't know. I don't know. I did that for the first season. I'm just gonna see where it goes. The main point of this for me, or not the main point, but the thing that I have to focus on is I have to just take it away from the movies, because it's not the movies. It's never going to be the movies. It's never going to be as good. The writing's never going to be as good. They're going to mess with the story. So I have to separate it from that world, and I have to make it a different thing, right? I just have to, because if I don't, I'm not going to watch it. And I'm watching it so you don't have to watch it. Okay, which is okay. I don't mind. I'm actually going to go watch episode 2 now. Am I interested in it? A little bit, because I really like this stuff. Am I excited? Nah, not really. I do want to watch it. I'm going to continue to watch it. I watched the whole first season, and normally I bail out of stuff. I have no problem bailing out of stuff. I got through 3 seasons of Breaking Bad, and I was like, I just can't do this crap anymore. I'm bailing out. I only had 2 seasons left. Should have finished it, probably. But bailed out. I like this world. I like this kind of stuff. Like I said, I'm trying to separate it from my love of the movie trilogy and the original books, and trying to not stick. I do, at the end of every one of these episodes, I do go back and read or try to find out specific lore type of things. So like after I watched this episode, I went back and I was like, who has these rings? Where did they go? Who forged them? Did Sauron forge them? Did he not? Because I wanted to make sure that I knew the difference between the show and the lore. I don't want, because people that have never dived into the lore at all, they're going to think this show is canon, and it's not, right? So I want to make sure I keep it separate. I want to make sure I know what the true lore and the canon is, and I want to be able to keep track with what the show's trying to tell us. So that is episode 1. Hopefully next time I have a co-host with me that is not worried about partying it up in New York City. They can be here in Mordor with me. Hopefully maybe Joe, Mike, or Sebi will join me for one of these 2. I keep asking them and they keep blowing me off. But little Joe is coming to visit me. So those of you who listen and know who I'm talking about, he's coming to visit. He'll be here for 11sies, and maybe he'll do a show with us. But until next week, I'm probably not going to record again until next week. I'll watch the other 2 episodes this weekend, and I will post something maybe on Monday or Tuesday. Probably not Monday. Monday is Labor Day, so probably Tuesday. All right. Hit the bell, click subscribe, hit the bell for live things like this. I would love to have some people join me in the chat here one of these days. And get to talk to you guys, and you ask me questions and all that kind of stuff. That would be awesome. But yeah. All right. See you guys later. Peace.